For all your medication and narcotic tracking needs, check out the LogRX app, created by career fire and EMS professionals. That's LogRX.com.
This podcast is brought to you by Flex 7 from TenCate Protective Fabrics. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of enforced technology. Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tencatefabrics.com/Flex 7.
Listening is the act and hearing is the result. Do you know what I mean? So how effectively you hear depends on how the quality of your listening. So are you actively or empathetically listening to where you get the entire message and therefore actually heard the person? Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Larry Conley Radio Show, and getting right into it without further ado, here he is, ladies and gentlemen, our host and fearless leader, Deputy Chief Larry Conley.
Yeah, I always do the point, just like those. Watch those talk shows at night. Those where they come out and they clap in the audience. They point. You never know who they're pointing to, but they're always pointing at somebody. So that's right. After years of watching Johnny Carson and David Letterman and all the greats, I got the point down pat. So I said, one day if I ever get a show, they're going to get the point. But anyway, welcome to another edition of the show. It's a long, hot summer. Yes, and I don't mind because, well, let me put it like this. I don't like extreme. So I don't like it when it's 1,000 degrees. And I don't like it when it's 1,000 below zero. Mm-hmm. I've always been the kind of fall and spring firefighter type, because if it's too hot, we can't have that. If it's too cold, we definitely can't have that. But if I had to pick one, I'm going to pick hot because I'm going to pick hot because I'm built like that. But we're in the middle of a long, hot summer. Winter is coming. And so in a few months, you'll be wishing for this type of weather when you're sliding around the holidays and stuff. But football's about to start, and that old dreaded thing that people like that I don't like, pumpkin spice, is going to make a comeback this fall. And yuck. That's all I got to say. Yuck. I'm a sweet potato spice type of guy. I'm not a pumpkin spice. I don't like pumpkin pie, pumpkin. One time I thought about nicknaming one of my daughters, "Hey Pumpkin." And I thought about how much I don't like pumpkins. So her name became Sweet Potato. That's her name. But
at least it wasn't eggplant.
Right. Yeah, that would have been bad. That would have been weird. Probably looked at weird by our friends. Hey, eggplant, get in the car.
Right.
That might have been kind of weird, But
that might be how you got sweet potato.
You never know. So,
let's move on.
I never know. I'm trying to figure out if I ever ate an eggplant, because some things I just don't like the way they sound, which turns me off from eating them. Like eggplant. If I'm gonna eat an egg, I want egg, but I don't want to pull my egg out the ground and then wash the dirt off and then eat it like a plant. I'm not doing that. It sounds gross to me. Another thing that I like, occasionally like to put it on stuff, but can't eat it by itself. Sauerkraut. Just don't like the way it sounds. It sounds funny. Kraut. What's a kraut? And if it's sour, that's even more. That's even worse. So you put the two things together. Something sour and the word kraut.
It just turns out.
Yeah, it's a turn out. Kraut can mean so many sick things that we're not going to discuss because it's a family show. But we was at the firehouse. I'm sure we can go about all kind of weird stuff that mean kraut. But I'll shut up on that. Another word, the food that sounds funny. Brown swagger. Yeah, I know people like it with mayonnaise, and we used to eat brown swagger as a kid, because your mama and grandma made you eat it because they get a big old 90-pound loaf of brown swagger because they figured this will feed you. If you get hungry, brown swagger. If you want a snack, go get some brown swagger. And to this day, I don't know how to spell brown swagger. If you tell me,
Neither
thank God
did
for
we.
Google, but if you ask me like right now, spell brown swagger, or
Mhm.
we're gonna to pull your nose hairs out one by one.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
just gonna have a clean nose because I can't spell brown swagger. I can't do it.
Lord have mercy.
I
No,
think that's
so
bad. How about liverwurst? It's actually worse than
Lord,
brown sugar. It's in the
that's
name.
much worse.
It's in the
That's
name.
even worse.
Mhm.
hey, I'm saying that sounds like something you want to eat. What we have for dinner? Liver's worse, and brown swagger with the sauerkraut. That's just
Nobody ever had liver best, Mm.
so. Uh, so I'm just saying, just
Mm.
stuff that you don't want to eat, stuff that I don't want to
Mm,
eat, and maybe there's people out there that like that, but I don't want
mm,
no. If we're gonna start you off
mm, mm,
with this four or five course meal. We're gonna let's
mm,
start you off with a little eggplant. How would you like
mhm,
that? And then
mm,
after you
mm.
finish that, we're gonna come up and give you some of this
Some
sauerkraut.
strong crowd.
So how about some of that? And then when you're done with
Mm,
that, wait,
mm,
kids,
mm.
we got some brown swagging waiting for you. Yeah,
I'd like to
and
know
then
what color the ripe swagger is. If the
yeah,
other
yeah,
one is
yeah, the
brown,
brown,
what
the
color?
brown,
What
yeah,
color is the ripe
yeah, yeah,
swagger?
yeah. It could probably taste even worse, because
Or do
some
they
things
Mm-hmm.
just
don't taste good, right?
have
Go ahead.
something called swagger?
Yeah, swagger. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Right.
now that
Right.
might be kind of good. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
add
Mm-hmm.
some swagger. That's
At
why I
least
was.
you would have
That's
some
why I was bold
swagger.
enough to ask you for your phone number because I just need
Right.
some
Mm-mm,
swagger.
mm-mm,
I
Mm-hmm.
got
mm-mm,
it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
mm-mm,
yeah.
Brown
mm-mm,
So
swagger was
anyway,
how I paid my way through college, but that's just
mm-mm,
right.
you don't
I'm
know
saying,
what
man,
you
you
don't
got
know what I had
mm-mm.
to do
That's
get
how
through
right.
come you
school.
got it as tall as
hmm
you did from brown
Mm-hmm.
swagger.
Now the only thing that sounds weird that I still may eat occasionally is potted meat. You put that on crackers. and and,
Mm-hmm.
and Vienna sausage,
Mm,
And potted
mm,
meat to me ain't nothing but smashed up Vienna sausage. They come in the can, they break glass in case emergency
mm,
food.
mm, mm.
You just crank them open real carefully because you don't want to get cut by the little sharp edges, and you got to be gentle too because if you rip it open, you can cut yourself, or you get Vienna sausage juice all over your hand and all over the table right there. You don't want that. You want
And
to make
somebody
sure
Yeah,
that
got
you take it out.
when you get them with that sody crackers, mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, that's good
well,
eating right there. That's good eating. I
well,
think I'm hungry after this podcast. I just might go in the kitchen and whip up some Vienna sausage and soda crackers.
see, this is because you all are at your age and your stage, but we used
Right.
to think you had to go to Vienna to get the sausage.
Yeah. You ain't got to
I'm
do
just saying,
that.
you ain't got to do that.
Or as our
Mm,
grandmother, your mother used to
mm,
call them the
mm,
Vienna sausage. I was like,
mm,
"Look, what's
mm,
the difference?"
Just right
Like
next to
the
Vienna. Yeah.
right next to Vienna, the Viennas. Now, see, the Viennas,
Mm-hmm.
mm,
they're a little more
mm,
tasty
mm,
than the Vienna. The
mm,
Vienna just tastes like
Mm-hmm.
regular, but you
mm,
get the
mm,
Viennas, man.
Man, you're
You
doing
missing the
something.
high cotton now with the
Yeah,
Viennas,
if you,
So,
yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would upgrade
mm,
brown swag and eggplant like that, but the only thing
mm,
they upgrade is the
mm,
Viennas.
mm,
So
mm,
not to
mm.
be confused with Vienna.
No, not at all. Not the
So,
same
No,
thing.
so,
no,
so
no.
just a little history lesson for you people.
Mm,
You can fact
mm,
check us, and you'll
mm,
find out
mm,
that we were all wrong here.
Right, right. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. So,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but
That's
anyway, enough about food. I'm getting hungry.
I'm
I
getting
should
ready to
go in
say.
there, take a break, go dark on here, and go give me some
Mm,
bananas. But
mm,
I'm a
mm,
hold out,
oh,
And then
please
let me
do.
tell you about all this stuff at the end.
Mm, mm,
It don't come out well. Your
mm,
sauerkraut,
No.
your liverworts, your brown swagger, and your Viennas, and your potted. Wait a few hours, kids. You're gonna be like,
mm.
"What
No
is
comment.
that?"
Yeah,
No
yeah.
comment.
Right? It's fun going down, but it ain't fun coming out with all that.
Once it
All
goes through
that.
the processing plant.
Right,
Mm,
right,
mm,
right.
Mhm.
It smells like eggs, but out the plant when it comes out.
mm, mm, mm,
Yep, yeah.
mm, mm.
It's just not pretty, kids. It's not pretty. So be
Yeah.
careful what you eat out there. You ain't got to eat that old school stuff like we did.
This is why
Mm.
people love the show.
Right,
Yeah.
right. 'Cause you never know what we're gonna talk about.
Well, it's all what got you here, though. See, this is
Right, it's
all this,
all leadership. Yeah,
all
but
this planning.
now tonight,
Mm,
our guests, and we'll have them on in the future.
mm,
was going to be Dr. David Griffin, and you probably know him out of the great city of Charleston. And he was going to join us tonight. Matter of fact, I'm not being too preemptive saying this because we got some things locked down that to get ready to pretty much guarantee that he will be in the St. Louis area. Keep this to yourself. Around December 3rd. It's going to be at the Gateway Center at the Collinsville, down beautiful downtown Collinsville, Illinois. And usually we bring in. I've been blessed to be able to bring in some national speakers in my tenure so far at Collinsville. The first year, we brought in none other than Chief Rick Lasky. Rick Lasky was there, dazzling the crowd with the knowledge and prior to ownership. Did a great job, and we brought the region together to come out to the convention center to see Chief Rick Lasky. Then they said, "Well, that was cool, Conley, but can you still bring the pain with somebody else the next year?" I said, "Okay, let me call up my good friend Chief Billy Goldfeather." Called Billy. Billy Goldfeather came down, knocked it out the park. I mean, it was when him and when Chief Lasky and Chief Goldfeather left, knocking them out the park, people were at the end looking like this because they knocked out the park. The presentation was on point and timely and just what the region needed. So, of course, around this fall time, people start asking again, "Hey, Conley, what you got this year? What can you had your Lasky, you had your Goldfeather. What you got this time?" I said, "Well, let me see. What's in the old bag of tricks here?" And when I looked in the bag of tricks, the most timely person I could think for this time was Dr. David Griffin. And David has a bunch of stuff in his repertoire he could talk about, from leadership to ownership and everything in between. And so we was going to have him on the show tonight. But let me tell you a little something about my friend David Griffin. David could be a little extreme about stuff. I mean, he's just all in. I mean, I like to think I'm all in about stuff, but you think you're all in to something till you meet David Griffin, and he's like all in. You be like, "Wait, hey, that's a lot." He said, "But I'm all in." I'm like, "You're right about that. That's all, you know." So he all the toenails in, fingernails. He all in, you know, So between some of his great experiences, his speaking repertoire, he got we call him Dr. Griffin because definitely got the PhD. And then, not to mention that, he used to do David Conley, likes my brother, that mixed martial arts fighting and stuff like that, where they beat you and kick you and bite you, and your ears look like your ears look like eggplants and cauliflower and all that kind of stuff. So and I thought he was over that. I really did. I said, it's good. He's a maturity. He's a little older. I thought he was over that. But no, Dr. Griffin wants to spar. And then when he was sparring with the MMA stuff, guess what? Dr. Griffin took it to the eye. So the eye is look like a cartoon eye. It's this big right there. And he didn't want to come on the show scaring people because it's a family show. You got kids and stuff watching this. He didn't want to scare everybody. So he said, "Can I do it next time when the swelling goes down?" And I told him, I said, well, to help with that, if you get some liverwurts and put it over your eye, and they'll reduce the swelling. That'll help.
Not many people know that.
Not enough people know it. The minute you use some liverwurts, it just doesn't taste like it sounds. The worst thing about it,
Right.
it can make the swelling go down. Right. So,
your liver make you quiver.
yeah, so we're going to see if that works when he comes back. Now, because back in his eye look funny, then maybe he should have used some sauerkraut. But I told him, try out the liverwurst first, And so we have to postpone Dr. Griffin, and we're going to get him on next time. And maybe it's a good thing because we'll get him on next time probably closer to when he's going to make his appearance here in beautiful downtown and uptown Collinsville, Illinois. And then maybe we can promote that more. But I'm just giving you a heads up. Mark your calendar. If you're in the St. Louis, Southern Illinois area, wherever you are, drive a few miles and come out and see Dr. David Griffin, as he gives us a whole day of presentation as only Dr. Griffin you can. Look him up. He got a great story of resilience, great story to let you know that it is okay to get help. Great story to let you know that what that all in means, and that self leadership and the whole thing is. He's got a great story. I've heard him a lot of times, and when we settle down and not be as busy, we're able to talk to each other sometimes. So he's a great guy, great presenter, and runs a pretty good operation over there with Dr. David Griffin. Now, since we couldn't get David Griffin, I was like, man, I was looking forward to talking to a David tonight. It just bothers me that, so, and I told him, hey, man, around the time it's time to come to St. Louis, don't do any MMA. Just stay clear of fighting people. Just stay clear until after. Then after that, you can fight as much as you want. But until then, chill out.
The octagon.
Stay out the octagon. Put some liverwurst on your eye and heal, So anyway, so I said, man, but then I got to thinking, I know a David. I know another David. I know David Conley. I know a lot of David. I know David Rhodes, who's running the show now. So you got, and all these are great people. They're great people. Great, they write great articles. They present great. I got all the Davids covered. So we've had David Rhodes on, Dr. Griffin, waiting for Dr. David Griffin, if he can stop beating up people. And then we got David Conley, who's written a series of articles for fire engineering. He's done some great work for them over the years. And we were talking a little earlier, and I said, David, I remember earlier this year on the fire engineering website, if you go back and look at the archives, David was on the road. I mean, he wrote probably about 7 or 8 articles, and all of them were based on our paradigm of what we teach when we out teaching our G.L.U.E personal leadership. So he took everything and broke it down into his own article. Like we've said this before, that the stuff that we have in our G.L.U.E repertoire, we teach it all as one unit. But each one would, as my mother say, each one would preach. You could take the end vision. You could a whole article, a whole presentation on just that. Mutual victory. Yeah, an article, a book. You could being proactive, man. What can you do with that? There's a million things you can do with that. Organize the priorities, like all of us continue to need. You could do something with that. Working together. When you're working together, these days more than ever, because we just need more unity and more understanding. You can write a whole article and do the whole presentation about that. The empathetic listening, man. Nobody's listening to each other these days. We just wait for you to shut up so we can tell us what we got to say and try to overpower you with our opinions and beliefs. But we're not wondering, well, where did you come from? Well, what do you have to say that might be important and I could learn something from? And then I personally could definitely write an article on recharge, because I tend to go and forget what's on the birth certificate, so I have to learn how to calm that down, and take time for myself and recharge and all that. But once again, something that would preach, something you could write an article about. So I told David, I said, what do you think would be a good thing to talk about tonight? And with the climate of everything going on, with the different generations working together in firehouses, right now we're in the deep political tug of war between the Republicans and the Democrats and everything in between. And all you got to do is just go to social media and watch the battle happen. And it's just funny because you got the left wing, you got the right wing, and each of them are poking each other about, you stupid, you're wrong, why would you do this, why would you do that, blah, blah, blah. Why do you believe that? Why do you believe that? Nobody seems to be listening. And what you don't realize is that reason is fun to watch, because I don't get involved in that political back and forth with people. Because if people have made up their mind about their beliefs, some post that you put on Facebook or whatever social media that you do, somebody's not going to look at that and say, man, I'm glad I read that. Now I'm getting ready to jump to the other side, opposite of what I was going. I'm glad nobody watched the Democratic National Convention and say, man, I'm changing my ways. Nobody watched the Republican convention and say, man, I'm jumping ship. People are already set. And you could be proven wrong on some facts that are important to you. You know what you're gonna do? Yeah, well, you're gonna justify it. Yeah, that might be true, but because you don't
Ain't
want to
nobody
abandon,
perfect.
right? You don't want to abandon your particular position. So, and it's on both sides. People are hardwired to what they believe, and that's okay. But it's on both sides, and so if you're not understanding that is happening on both sides, and you're not willing to learn why and things like that, then you're not empathetically listening. And we need that not only as a country, but if you're working in the fire service and working close where life and death is in the hands of your brothers and sisters on the team, maybe you should try some empathetic listening. Maybe you should try reaching across the aisle. Maybe you should try to understand each other a little better, because we intimately connected, and you can't be intimately connected with somebody that you diametrically opposed to in every way. So, so we felt out of the 7 or 8 articles David wrote, the one that may be more impactful tonight to talk about would be the one about empathetic listening. And David wrote the article, and the article is very, very well written, but it's based on a lot of the stuff that we teach. And David does a good job in talking about it when we do our presentation, when we travel and do that. So tonight I figured, because you know what, I think I'm trying to figure out, have we highlighted you? I know we've highlighted me, and we've highlighted Mama before. I wondered, have we highlighted? I couldn't remember if we did. If we did, it was a long time ago. But anyway, tonight we want to highlight this David. I mean, I'm like, I don't need no David Griffin. I got David, and then you know what, my David too. You know what my David do? My David, he does karate too. It
That's what
may
I
not
was
be
getting ready
MMA,
to say.
but
I was waiting on you to put
yeah,
that together.
he knows karate. I know karate, so it's a difference. But my point is that he could kick. Matter of fact, that might be a good charity event. You know, you and David Griffin and get into the octagon and make it happen.
Wow.
See
Wow.
what's happening. See what's going on. The old sage against the younger guys. So we can see. We might have to put together a fundraiser and see, see which David wins. And you know, another great kung fu person, David Carradine. Remember him? This thing is, I mean, we going back. You know,
What's up with this David thing?
I don't know.
David's running.
Right.
You sound like Don King shaved his head. You know what I mean?
Right. Be a hustle behind that muscle. You know, so, but anyway, so tonight's episode, ladies and gentlemen, cats and kittens, and everybody who's listening, we are going to talk to David Martin Conley with a Y, and we're going to discuss his article about empathetic listening, and then after that we'll kind of go back and forth as we see fit to kind of really drive that part home, because I think listening is the key to any successful relationship. And if we master that, we probably can overcome, most of our battles with each other, be it gender, be it race, be it politics, social construct, whatever the case may be. Listening is a key healing power. If we can learn how to do that, then I'm sure we can solve a lot more problems than we have. So, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the letters are out, ladies and gentlemen, for FDIC. And a lot of you have got those letters, whether you're going or whether you're not going. And we'll discuss that a little bit and then kind of wrap this thing up. So without further ado, as David would always say about me, without further ado, take it away, David Martin Conley there.
Hey, how you doing? Finally, Some real presentation. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit a lot of it on the head, actually. But we'll dive, a little deeper into it. Part of the big problem with um, the things the way they are now, the climate, and you mentioned politics, but in all kinds of relationships, fire teams, marriages, familial relationships. Um, I think we have gotten to a place where nobody is listening to the other person, where we're hearing the words, the words go in and out of your ears. And so everybody thinks, well, of course I'm listening. I heard the words, but we are not listening with the right intent. Right, empathetically, not listening with the intent to try and understand exactly where the other person is coming from and how they are feeling about what it is they're saying. So it's one thing to hear the words or to understand the words. It's another thing to understand the feeling and the motivation behind the words, or to even understand the things that are not said. What they used to call reading between the lines. That's kind of, like a lost art, but a lost intent. Now it's just I'm listening more so to wait till you pause so I can say this very important thing that will change your life, or really I can just let that person know. And that notion of letting the person know has gotten more relationships destroyed, more people hurt, maimed, or killed than anything. You ever see a situation escalate? Like years ago, there was a thing where some people got killed because they got into an argument about how long it would take in order Chinese food to get to the house. I mean, that's you talk about escalation from something simple as, it'll take this long, it'll take that long, all the way to a loss of life.
You would think it
As
would be that significant.
right, as ridiculous as that sounds, it doesn't take long when you're not listening and you're talking at each other for a thing to escalate. Because the most frustrating thing in a situation like that is both people feel like you're not listening to me and like they're not being heard. And that human need to be understood, to express yourself, is very, very serious, very, very fierce. It's one of the more important needs next to survival. And so when you put that need under pressure and make the person feel like they're not heard, you create this sort of tension and distance, and further antagonize the situation. And if both people are feeling like that, then you start increasing the division. So you see that a lot in, like what Larry was saying with the politics, for instance. And not to get into politics, but it's just a great example of that, because people dig into their point of view, and it becomes advantageous to not listen, especially not with the intent of understanding the other point of view, because it might alter how you think about yours. So instead of actually listening and trying to see where we can bridge those gaps, where we can come together, we decide we need to do things that would distance us. And part of the not listening is where we just say, okay, well, this means if this person thinks this, then they're completely nuts. And so therefore they're not worthy of me listening to them, and I'm dismissing it. It's called lowering status. And when you do that and you don't maintain that equal high status in that interaction, then it's easy to dismiss the person as nuts, dismiss them as crazy. And the other part of the detrimental part of that is you will retard your ability to learn something new. So you lower your IQ. And that's why people end up falling for a lot of, political untruths that, these different candidates will say in order to get elected or whatever. And people don't fact check, they don't read, they don't do anything, because they're not trying to have their IQ necessarily go up. So as we get into the habit of this in our interpersonal relationships, in our political affiliations, in our fire teams, in just how we deal with people, period, there's a sort of dummying down of not only your intellectual IQ, your emotional IQ, but also your ability to effectively communicate, period. And so then you have a lot more of this this tension and division. So what we're talking about oftentimes, or what makes stronger teams, is the connection. And the connection needs a couple things. It needs the notion, the general notion that everyone's point of view is worthy of respect and consideration, and therefore valid to that degree. But it also means that you have to actually listen to try and understand what that person. You have to fight the feeling of saying they're ridiculous, so therefore this is ridiculous and not worth my time. So then I'm shutting down. Rather than do that, you have to actually say, "Let me stop and listen, and then try to understand." And then I'll go through these right quick, and then we'll just sort of discuss it. But there are 4 stages of empathetic listening that help you to do this, operationalize it. And those 4 stages are: number 1, to mimic the content. So if a person says something to you, you repeat the words right back, at them. Somebody says they don't like something. You tell you, well, what I'm hearing you say is you don't like whatever that thing is. And then you sort of rephrase it so you can get some clarity. So what I'm hearing you say is you don't like X, Y, and Z. Is it because of A, B, and C? And then they'll say, well, no, it's got more to do with some of the letters in between. And you say, oh, okay, and you understand that, but you're listening and you're watching their body language and everything, trying to discern how they feel around and behind the words that they're saying. Are they upset? Are they happy about it? Are they in some way indifferent about it? These things might prompt you to probe with deeper questions to get that better understanding. But then after you do, you respond in a way that says you understood or says you need more clarification, and you continue trying to get to what they're saying and how they feel about what they're saying. When you are genuinely trying to do that and genuinely engaging in that sort of interaction, and the other person is engaging in that with you, what starts to happen is you start to come closer together, because that human need to be understood is getting satisfied by both parties. And so now you start to growing closer, the relationship starts to get stronger. That's the kind of thing you need, of course, on fire teams and things like that, but it's the kind of thing that can strengthen all kinds of relationships and can make fast friends, can make better friends, can make better relationships within your family, can make better marriages, all of that. Most of all of the problems is when you do one or two things. You create an unsafe environment for people to be able to talk to you and tell you the truth about things. And then the other thing is where you make a person feel like you are not actually hearing them, in the sense that you're not trying to hear where they're coming from or how they feel about whatever the thing is that they're seeing or feeling. And so I think that's what we're missing a lot in this country. I think in the world, I think part of that is because of social media and because of technology, and where it's making some things more efficient, it's lowering the effectiveness of our communication a lot, because it's making us sort of lazy about trying to actually connect to another human being. And so you'll see, this is the last thing I'll say, you'll see how foreign actual connection is if you say you're talking to somebody and you're watching them while they're talking to you, and they say, well, why are you looking at me like that? I'm just listening to you. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. But we're not used to people looking at us like that. We're not used to people listening to us with 2 eyes and 2 ears. And that's creating problems in our relationships. So that's what the article's about, and it helps you to actually see it. It tells you the difference between listening selectively, which is about filtering the words through your own experience or through your thoughts about the thing before it even gets started, trying to see what's important or what aligns with your thinking. That's selective or biased listening. We want to steer away from that and lean more into empathetic listening if we can. So,
Now, I want to ask a question.
yeah.
I think people, in my opinion, in general, of course, not everybody, thinks listening and hearing are synonymous, that they mean the same thing,
Right.
and they don't
Right.
necessarily. And
No.
so because of, I think that it's important to start thinking in a way where the empathetic part comes in.
Right.
Because being empathetic means I'm trying to hear what you're saying, do more than just hear what you're saying. I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I'm trying to understand what, all the terminology that you're meaning and how it's making you feel and those kinds of things. And you're also trying to feel what the person that's talking is feeling. And that's whether it's good news or bad news or in between. And so I think sometimes in just our normal communication, that we think we're listening because we hear. But the empathetic thing is something that I don't think people necessarily automatically listen with that particular word in the sentence or in their mind.
Yeah, with that intent. And the thing about listening and hearing is like, so you can hear because the words are going to hear, but you know, actually listening is the act and hearing is the result. Do you know what I mean? So how effectively you hear depends on how the quality of your listening. So are you actively or empathetically listening to where you get the entire message and therefore actually heard the person? But you can sort of hear the words where you're, like they're coming in your ear, but you didn't actually hear the person because you didn't understand it to the fullness of that. You didn't get a full understanding, I should say. And so therefore you didn't, really effectively hear the person. And so when you say that way, the person said, well, didn't you hear me? Well, yeah, I heard it, but you didn't hear it. And or they say, you're not hearing me. I'm saying blah, blah, blah. That means that you're not understanding me. And you're not understanding me because you're not listening to me correctly. So the listening is the act and then the hearing is the result. And so that's the difference between those two, even though people think it's synonymous, but they lazily think it is just a matter of as long as you said it and I sat there patiently while you said whatever you said, then that means that I was, listening and that I heard you. And neither of those things would be true if you didn't actually try to, number one, get the words, and number two, actually understand where they were coming from when they were saying those words.
So that's where the empathetic part
and that's where the empathetic part comes in. Yes.
Okay.
Just trying to actually understand their feeling that ties in with the words, because you have affective communication and you have efficient communication, which is I'm going to use as succinct a message as I can in communicating my message. But then you have affective communication, which is how you emotionally communicate something, what your affect is when you're communicating something. And you do both of those things at the same time, whether you're trying to affectively communicate or not. Your affect is involved in that, it's intertwined in that. So a person has to pay attention to that full message in order to actually hear what you're saying.
And understand what you what you're saying.
Right.
And I think
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say one more thing about the empathetic part, because I like words, and it's one of my things. But I can remember back, it was a long time before I used to even hear the two words put together, empathetic and listening. And it got more impactful, when we started doing the program. Because when the title came up, empathetic listening, I knew what both words meant, but empathetic was not always emphasized,
right.
or even taught, because it adds another dimension to your. I can hear you, and I might even think I'm listening to you, but if I'm not, I'm so empathetically trying to hear what you're saying, I'm going to miss some things. Maybe some critical things too.
Yeah, most times, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say the name of the article is Stronger Fire Teams Through Empathetic Listening. And one of the reasons that was kind of timely in that because I think everybody's looking for ways to make their team stronger. And a lot of times it might be interpreted as if I'm making it stronger, we're going to train more, we're going to work out. And those things are critical because you need those elements to be a successful, resilient, effective firefighter. However, there are a lot of times that, this kind of team building stuff kind of goes by the wayside because people think it's just, we don't have to be intentional. All we got to do is just kind of exist and we'll kind of work it out. And you would never do anything like that in your fire service career. You would never train like that where you would say, I'm just going to figure it out when I get there and think that that's a successful dynamic.
Right.
You would never do anything like that you're intentional about. So we need to highlight more that being intentional about this type of stuff will have us have more and improved communication, just like good training, hands-on training makes you more proficient and efficient at that. I was going to kind of walk through because a lot of the article was broken down in a lot of different great topics. So I figured what we could do is go over some of the subtitles the headings, so to speak, and then you can kind of summarize through each heading. I know right off the bat, when we were talking about what is empathetic listening, and it's defined as a form of active listening in which the listener strives to understand and share the feelings of the speaker. And when a firefighter engages in empathetic listening, it creates a safe and supportive environment for our fellow team members to express their thoughts, concerns, and emotions. And I think in all my years of being a firefighter, sometimes I really have not seen that part of it done as well as it could. And then that way you can help create these isolations of people not really living their true selves. They're just maybe getting along because they don't want to rock the boat of what the culture is. And so it's hard for them to listen because all they hear is culture that might not have been built to its best of its ability. And then they're not hearing the quote unquote new person or the person who thinks a little different because the culture has shut out that type of engagement. So when you do engage in empathetic listening and you are putting to the forefront that I'm trying to create a safe and supportive environment, you're going to get a richer outcome because everybody kind of gave a little bit up to gain a whole lot more. And when we do that, any team is going to be well affected by that. So why don't you kind of elaborate a little bit on, what is empathetic listening in your summary of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you read sort of captures it. It's about each person contributing to creating a culture where everybody on the team feels seen and heard. And when you're in a place with a lot of alpha personalities, a lot of the old school culture is a thing where, toughening up means that we don't really care whether we get seen or heard or whatever, but it's still there. It's just unspoken and it boils over in other ways that are somewhat detrimental. What you're trying to create is an emotionally safe environment and a psychologically safe also environment for everybody to be able to express ideas, to challenge the status quo, to be able to say that they, felt uncomfortable about how a certain call was handled, and that might be the catalyst for how we can look at more efficient and effective ways to do some of the things that we do when we get out on the scene, or anything from something like that to just heading off any sort of interpersonal contentious situations that can rise to a boiling point because they've gone unchecked for so long. We're talking about creating a space where a lot of these things can be handled a lot more efficiently. Well, they're handled like that because you do empathetic listening as a default. It's not a thing where we say, okay, you know what, guys, we came from this call, so everybody in the kitchen, we're going to do some empathetic listening. Where that's cool, but it sets a sort of precedent that just on a Thursday, no incidents on the shift at 7 o'clock, I don't have to worry about doing empathetic listening. I only have to do it in these situations. I'll put my empathetic listening code on and then I'll take it off when that's done. That's not how that should go. It should be a thing where it is the default method of communication for everybody on the team. And that needs to be from the top down to bottom up. Everybody is practicing this on a daily basis, even when we're talking about what we're all going to have for dinner or how we're going to divvy up any of the responsibilities around the engine house or whatever the deal is. You are practicing it that way so that then if there's something that comes up where it's a little more serious, a little more weighty, you have built up the muscles, you've built up the sort of muscle memory, if you will, to do empathetic listening in a way that is highly effective, that becomes a lot more simple, and it streamlines a lot of these other processes. So empathetic listening is in a nutshell, or summarizing it, is a skill that can be developed over time like any other skill that you have in your technical training. Then you do that, as Chief Conley says, till you can't get it wrong. Empathetic listening should be approached in the same way. It should be approached in that way because these types of skills undergird your technical training in a way that makes you individually and the team stronger, closer, and builds a connection that makes you more effective, by the time you get to the emergency scene. So.
Mm-hmm. In the next segment, you talk about selective or biased listening. And it says when biased listening becomes commonplace on the fire team, it creates an atmosphere of disconnection. And this can lead to poor decision making, compromised safety, even conflict among the team members. And when individuals hesitate to contribute, vital information may go unnoticed. Why don't you elaborate on that a bit?
The selective listening or biased listening, it sounds bad when we're talking about empathetic listening, but it's on its face not bad. See, what happens is so it's a technique that we inadvertently use because our lives are busy and our days, move at a rapid pace, even faster now a lot of times. So what people tend to do is they say, there's so much information coming at me, I have to have some sort of way to strain this information and get down to what's important for me to get X, Y, and Z done. So they start saying, okay, this, no, this, yes, this, your brain starts doing that. And when you get in the habit of doing it, you end up kind of cutting off some things that might be important. You get in the habit of saying, I'm not interested in this, so therefore I'm cutting it off. So now it becomes a part of how you communicate, not when you're trying to do something for work. You're just communicating just on a daily basis with people, and it creates a certain distance because you don't actually listen to everything. So as you're straining things out and deciding what's important for you to pay attention to, what's unimportant or whatever, you tend to miss a lot of like what would be crucial information. But the other thing you do is you set up an atmosphere where people feel like, whether they are aware of it or not, they feel like it's, and I'm using unsafe in a way that might say it's dangerous, but it can lead to some danger, but unsafe in the sense that they don't feel like they trust you enough with certain information. So they'll either tell you certain things and you won't hear it, or they'll decide that there's no use in telling you because you're not going to hear it, especially when you start talking about leadership. A lot of times people won't approach leaders because they feel like, well, they're not going to pay attention to me. They're not going to listen to what I got to say or whatever. So they don't feel safe to bring that. So because they have witnessed selective or biased listening happening on a routine and regular basis. And they may be engaging in it even themselves. But now when both people are operating like that, think of the amount of information that's being missed. Think of the opportunities to connect that's being missed. So then that's when selective or biased listening becomes a detriment. So you've taken something that's on its face could be useful depending on the situation, and you've abused it in the sense of you've used it abnormally, and now it's become a thing that's bad for the relationship you're trying to build. So if your default is to actively build a relationship and build stronger teams, what you want to do is limit the bias or selective listening, so that you can stamp out, any sort of toxic culture. You can keep things from brewing on the back burner. You can keep things from being a situation where people think of this negative thing about you or this negative interaction you all had that might have been a simple misunderstanding because of everybody's selective listening. And now every time you all interact, it's building on that negativity as opposed to actually trying to connect with each other's point of view, maybe gaining some understanding. And understand that doesn't mean you're going to agree, it just means you'll understand. And understanding itself goes a long way. You don't necessarily have to agree. They just have to know that they've been heard and understood. Those things build the stronger relationships. That's what we want to lean more into and lean less into the selective or biased listening. And you can actually do both. You can actually tell a person, once you've established a culture where everybody's empathetically listening to each other, you can actually tell a person who comes up to you and when you don't really have a lot of time to listen empathetically and get into you can say, okay, right now I got, 5 minutes. I don't really have a lot of time, so I might need to get the cliff notes of this particular thing right now. But later on, let's set some time and say an hour or whenever, is good for us to sit down and actually get into.
Excuse me.
Bless you. As long as the person knows that you're actually interested in hearing what they have to say and engaging in a meaningful conversation, they would be cool to say, okay, here are the talking points or the cliff notes of this. It's blah, blah, blah. And you say, okay, got it. Here's this. And then you all actually do have to fulfill that promise and get together and empathetically listen. Just don't make the selective or biased listening be your default if your aim is to make stronger teams and to connect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. The next heading talks about empathetic listening is more efficient and effective. And empathetic listening also enables firefighters to better understand the need and concerns of their colleagues, both personally and professionally. As team members listen to each other more deliberately, they make a better connection and become more aware of the subtle, changes in behavior. And this could be the signal of some seismic disruptions going on in their personal life but they are definitely good signals that, okay, everything ain't right. And I know that because I'm in tune to this person. Where if you weren't in tune, something could be going on and you don't know it until it's too late. And you say, I didn't see that coming. Well, you probably weren't listening. Empathetic listening makes the team more cohesive, and this strengthens the team's ability to adapt to dynamic situations, innovate, and continuously improve as a collective unit. This also raises your cultural, emotional, and even vocational IQ. Why is having that kind of heightened IQ in these particular parts of the human dynamic, you feel it's important?
Well, I mean, it's important because it makes us more adaptable as people, as individuals, definitely more adaptable as a team. And in the fire service, you know better than me. I'm just watching Chicago Fire and Station 19, but I'm saying you're getting, all sorts of emergencies. Anything can be thrown at you from something, you're used to. You guys talk about frequent flyers, but also some things you've never seen before. And you have to be able to adapt to these emergencies, and you're expected to mitigate them. And so individually and team wise, you want to be able to be adaptable. You want to be able to handle any of those physical emergencies. But we're talking about emotional tolls that gets psychological tolls that reach our firefighters and our first responders, and we see the effects of those when it comes to things like suicide and mental health challenges and things like that. And we need to be able to kind of recognize that maybe some things are going on with some of our men and women out here that we can say, okay, hey, is there anything I can do? How can I support you or what have you? A lot of times people feel alone and they've isolated themselves, due to the environment or whatever, not being one that's where the connections are high and where the IQs are high, where you can understand, oh, wait, the way they get down is this way, or how this happens is this way. You'll be able to see those things better. When we start talking about vocational IQs, you can learn things from people about the job, technical stuff that you are not as good at, and you can swap information, stuff you're really good at, you can share with them, you, and the team grows and gets better. This section is saying that it's more efficient and effective, but it's more efficient once you have established the culture of trust and of connection among the team. That takes work. That takes you adopting empathetic listening and equal higher status as a rule, as a way that you handle business and get down. And when you do that on the regular basis, just every day, all the time, and build those stronger teams, now everything becomes more effective. But it's more effective because the shorthand is there, your connections are better, you're more efficient, you have that kind of team that you boast about a lot when you're talking about the 13s and the camaraderie you guys had that I've witnessed, where you were able to do certain things just by knowing how each other moves or whatever. You were able to sort of, and a lot of fire teams have that. And then the ones that don't, then a lot of the challenges are, there's a possibility for the firefighter and the citizens to fall into a very serious gap, with that. So I think it's important to really commit to doing this as a commitment to building stronger relationships, starting with the relationship with yourself, then the relationship with other team members, and then the team and the department as a whole. It should grow out from each individual adopting these habits. And again, you utilize those 4 stages. It's very simple. It's just 4. Utilize those 4 stages of empathetic listening. Again, to mimic the content, rephrase the content, pay attention to tone and body language and intonation, etc., and respond. Practice that on the daily, and your team will be stronger, will be more effective and more efficient, and you'll learn more things about other people, about other cultures, about other parts of the job that you didn't know, all of that. And if you have any aspirations to move up or to move over or to do some other things within the fire service, this also helps you to do that better, to establish relationships, which can help you, but also to learn things that can help you grow and to get better as a firefighter or EMT or what have you.
One of the things I think too, after listening to this, I knew the terminology, but you have certain professions that all have some things that are tough to deal with. Sometimes people's personal problems and sometimes team problems, whatever. But I think I've heard Larry, when you call him Larry, I call him Chris. But anyway, and sometimes I just call him. But anyway, but you guys, women and men in that particular profession, and there's some other professions too, that see things that the average person don't see much, unless something, just happens to them personally. But I know at one time it was the saying you used to say, we run in when the places or something that other people run out. And so, therefore, that kind of was insinuating that you all have to deal with some issues that the average person does not have to deal with, even on their job, on that level, you know. And so, I think even though this is good for everybody, I think it's especially needed in a profession like that because you left the building and ran into another building, and that building wasn't like the one you left, and then you saw some tragic, just gut wrenching kind of things happen, and so to have the relationship built up where you've been used to empathetic listening, you don't mind maybe having somebody to talk to, once you get back to the firehouse and kind of settle down and and then have a conversation to just release and let go, but a safe place to do that because this is a place where you think you got to be kind of tough, and you do, and when you especially when you go out that building into a blazing fire, but when you come back, I think it's empathetic listening is crucial because everybody may not have even uh, had the same mental or emotional experience when they all were in the same place at the same time, dealing with the same situations. So sometimes it's a good place good thing to have a time where you can talk it out and express yourself. No judgment, just empathetically listening. But sometimes people, they don't necessarily are asking for advice per se. They may do that too, but sometimes we just want to be heard. But I noticed in having dealt with uh, some firefighters along the way, listening to my son, is, sometimes you guys get to talking about stuff and we talk about things that the average person's not having those conversations because of the kind of experiences that you have. I've never run into a fire. The closest I've ever been to a fire is somebody's house caught on fire down the street, from where I lived or something like that. But, and I heard about something happening bad in there or something like that. But to be able to go in there and witness it and have to do something about it, that has to have an impact on you. And so it's good to have this ability to then have some empathetic listening when you go back to the firehouse and after things have kind of calmed down. And because to me, I can't even imagine going into some of the things I've heard through over the years that you all would deal with, and then come back and then, you know, how did you like those Cardinals? You know what I'm saying? And you may want to do something like that, just kind of just, settle down. But at some point, you might want to, talk about things that you have just witnessed and how it affected you. And then have somebody who can empathetically listen to you. And since you all have this setting where when you all are together day and night, that's not necessarily how a lot of other jobs are. But since you have to be there then another 24 hours where you may not get called at all, that's a good thing to know how to have some empathetic listening, especially for that particular profession.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I think we are getting a whole lot better as an industry. We're having these environments where it's a safe place to talk and express yourself, because in the past, you just kind of had to suck it up and deal with it. And some people weren't trained to where to put it. And if you don't know where to put it, then it could end up being something that can affect you. And it may not affect you all in one time, but over time it can insidiously erode your spirit and things. And that's why you got people who have burnout, or you got, firefighters, suicide and things like that, because you ran out of places to put your compartments are full. I mean, the firefighters have mastered compartmentalizing things, because you have to. If I see something horrific in the morning, I still got 20 hours left of work. I can't drag what I did this morning to the afternoon, or the afternoon to the night, or the night to the early in the morning. You have to be there for all of it, engage, in tune, or whatever. If you don't, as you would say, replenish every step taken, then you run the risk of some of the bad ends, the tragic ends we may see. And probably the worst thing, we might think the worst thing is somebody who decides to make a permanent decision, but a lot of times it's the living hell. That's maybe the worst you have to deal with if you don't know how to process that. And we're going to have a counselor that I've met and really respect, and we're going to have her on in the next couple of shows to even talk about this, especially since she specializes in emergency workers. And so because that was the problem initially, go see somebody. And then we used to tell people, I don't mind going and see somebody. Well, you're a person like anybody else. Like if a person work at Taco Bell, you ain't really got the same problems. I'm not saying you don't have your share of things, the stresses. I'm not trying to minimize it, but there are things that we're going to see as an industry that the average person and the public will never see. And so we have to have a more concentrated, direct solutions for those type of problems that may arise. I know in the next section, I think you already hit this, where you kind of walk through the methodology of really listening, where you mimic the content, you rephrase what they say, you reflect the feeling response and respond. And, you kind of practice that every day. You feel like you done said enough about that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, the steps themselves are simple, but they kind of, repeat over and over again in any sort of interaction. It's easy to academically understand. It's a little more difficult to train yourself to practice it. But the only thing I would say about it, and that kind of even leads me into that last section of practice every day, is I would just practice it when the stakes are not high. Just, practice it when you're just having a benign conversation with especially then, because then you could, really do it lucid. Then,
then go get a drug test and get fired.
Right. So if you can practice it on weed, then you can practice it in the weeds.
Or maybe when you come down from being
right. Exactly. But no, seriously, I think you practice it when, like I said, it's something as simple as what you guys are going to have for dinner, or anything like this, something that's not really that deep. You practice it then, so when you start getting into some of these deep sessions. But then if you are a firefighter who wants to sort of establish or encourage a culture of empathetic listening with your squad, with your department, or what have you, some of these other things that are in the practice every day section might help. Like some of Elaine was talking about, some of these, like some of the debriefs you might have afterwards, might encourage some of those debriefs and let people, if they're talking, let them talk and get out, and without being interrupted or what have you. And then somebody or some different people will say, what I'm hearing you say is that on that call, you felt like this, that, the other, and, is that correct? And the person would then say, well, yeah, but I also, just to be clear, felt like blah, blah, blah. And you can see what they were thinking or how they felt. And then you respond in a way that says you understood and that, you got them and whatever. And I'm saying as you're doing that, you're learning each other. You're learning different things about what makes this person tick or, what ticks this person off. And then as you're going along later on, over the years, you start to notice, hey, this is a little bit off. This is a little bit different. Or, your relationship just as a team gets better. But it does take work. It takes some constant tilling of that garden. It's never maintenance free, as Larry likes to say. And so if you don't put the work in, then don't expect the result to be something that is, what would happen with people who get the result, And so a lot of us like to think that because we understand it academically, oh yeah, I got it, so everything should just fall into place. And it's not like that. These types of things take work, and for years they've been sort of put on the back burner as soft skills, mamby-pamby stuff, whatever, falling on your sword. You can't be really alpha personality or the type of tough person you need to be to make it happen. True toughness is being able to be vulnerable with some people you trust and whatever. Is being able to do that, having the wherewithal to do that, but still be able to do your job. That is, in my opinion, true toughness, and it'll make you last longer. It'll make you more resilient than the other way. And, you see that kind of break all the time, So, again, you got to set it up for yourself and establish that kind of culture, but then allow for the other people to experience that culture with you. If you are a person who empathetically listens, you create a safe culture around you where people say, I don't know what it is about Larry, but I feel like I can tell him anything. They have that kind of feeling about you because, you're a person who empathetically listens, and then that gives you a better response to what they're saying. You don't respond autobiographically. You don't respond saying, well, when I went through that, I felt like this, so you should feel like that. That doesn't happen. You don't respond in a way that says you misheard what they said without you doing it in a way that tries to get clarification. You also, though, might learn some things you didn't know in your life. It's not just about the other person, but just that you didn't know. You didn't realize that this phenomenon, whatever it is, existed in the world. We use it to say you can talk to people when there's conflict or when that person's in trouble, but it's not just for that. That's the thing that a lot of people miss. It's for everything. It's for every relationship. Sometimes you got to learn to keep your mouth closed for the time being and actually try to hear what they're saying from their point of view. A thing I used to really be guilty of is already knowing what you were thinking. So then when you start talking, I already know what you're thinking. So even if you're saying something that's completely different than what I'm saying, then you are lying. And you think about that and see if you ever thought that, if you ever said, yeah, I hear what they're saying, but they making that up. Because what really was this. What you're doing is listening selectively. You're listening with autobiographically, and by everything that's wrong, you're listening. You're not listening empathetically to say, this is what that was. Because I'm going to tell you, two people can go through the exact same situation together, and that situation will impact them completely different. And what that person is telling you is how they were affected or what their experience was during that thing, which a lot of times affects the behavior that person has. So now, if you're not trying to understand where that person's coming from and how they were feeling, and therefore not having that connection, and then you're going to say, hey, let's go into this emergency situation where we put our lives in each other's hands. What do you think about that, buddy? That's perfect. that makes perfect sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. That's ridiculous. You want as much connection as possible. You want, you know what I mean, to be able to have a level of psychological safety and trust in all your team members, even if they have different backgrounds, different points of view about stuff, all of that kind of thing. But and what's interesting about this, the thing I was saying about the selective listening, we want to do it when we're listening, but we don't want the person to do it when we're talking. Isn't that weird? When we're talking, we expect you to really understand where we're coming from. You need to know what I'm saying and where I'm coming from. I want you to understand me. But when they're talking, well, I don't need to. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. You don't know, you know what I mean? So that double standard needs to be examined and needs to be dealt with if you want to build stronger teams. Because when you have that kind of disconnected thinking, a person doesn't know that they're saying this, and a lot of times they don't articulate it, but they can't trust you when you think like that. When you show that kind of behavior, it's very difficult for a person to trust you. So then later you say, well, how come they didn't tell me that? They didn't tell you that because they didn't trust you. And they didn't trust you because you set up a situation where they felt like they could not bring the truth to you or how they felt to you or open up or be vulnerable or any of that because they felt like that expression would go not listened to and therefore unheard, to go back to what Mommy Lane was talking about earlier. So they'll know that you weren't listening, which means you didn't hear. They'll know you don't listen, which means you don't hear them. So they stop telling you stuff. And then you all go on this autopilot sort of relationship daily, putting your lives in each other's hands in these emergency situations. That is a ticking time bomb. It just is. But as you do that, the other thing you're doing, even if nothing ever happens at the emergency situation, you are making the person feel incrementally more isolated every day, incrementally more distant from the team and from other people every day. And you think about it, if they feel like that there, where it's supposed to be this brother and sisterhood, if they feel like that there, you're not even considering what they also might be feeling at home, what they might also be feeling with their friends or what. And most of the time when people are in those situations where they're making those permanent decisions about temporary issues is because they feel alone. When we do this, our class around the country is very interesting. It's a very interesting human study because we do these sort of scenarios that get, kind of deep and emotionally charged. And one of the ones we do is one where we're dealing with something like that, or that sort of really dramatic, permanent decision for a temporary situations thing. And the person that I'm portraying feels isolated. And the toughest thing for people to do is to stop talking and actually listen and then respond in a way. And I'm telling them the answers as we're going through. I'm telling them everything they need to know to mitigate it. And a lot of times they fail it because the default is not to listen. The default is to talk and try to talk you into whatever instead of listening and saying, how can I let you know that I hear you? How can I let you know, therefore, that I got you? And the only way I'm going to let you know I got you is to respond in a way that said, I heard you. But we still miss that because they haven't built those muscles up. And so that ends up being the problem. So, anyway.
Yep, good stuff. And I know you kind of wrapped the article of Remember the Goal is Connection. And one of the things that I just really think it's important to understand that we have to be intentional in making sure this is as efficient and as effective as it can be. Because, I believe the philosophy even before we started doing this program was if you can't get it right at the firehouse, you can't get it right in the street. And practicing and bringing out, seeing the best in each other with the intimate brothers and sisters that we work with will prepare us for the unknown in the street. because
Mm-hmm.
you don't always deal with
Yeah.
people who get manners or nice
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
fit within
That's a good
the
point.
realm of the hours that you wanted to be in their
Mm-hmm.
presence. You
Mm-hmm.
got to be brand new at 3 o'clock in the morning with somebody who's maybe don't have the best attitude. And if you don't have that muscle built of some tolerance and some empathy and some really listening, because there are a lot of times we've showed up on the scene, somebody's, talking crazy, acting crazy. But if you had a little bit of empathetic listening skill, you might understand that it may not be what they're yapping about. It may be something else. And when you make that connection, chances are you can de-escalate that
Diffuse it.
situation or all
Mm-hmm.
like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and since that's part of the expectation for our profession, we're not expected to yell back or clap back or act, but now naturally, if your life is in danger, I'm not saying,
Mm-hmm.
hey buddy, stop swinging a knife at me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to
Mm-hmm.
hug you and you keep stabbing me. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that. But what I am saying, in situations where you can apply it, it's a lot better to do it that way and be that better example. But you can't do it if you haven't ever practiced it. You can't do
Right.
it if you didn't do it in a safe lab, so to speak. And by the time you got squeezed, or if you get squeezed at the firehouse, because you will have
Right.
disagreements, you will have stuff that you don't see eye to eye about. Did you practice mitigating that there? Because the more
Mm-hmm.
you practice it with people then you are prepared for the unknown public. And at the end of the day, we there to serve the public. And that's why
Customer
we
service.
even when people say on the surface, yeah, we're there for the customers, and they wear shirts
Mm-hmm.
that say it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not about us, it's about them, and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But then turn around and curse somebody out on the street and get to
Mm-hmm.
lose their job. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was about them, because if it was,
Mm-hmm.
you probably wouldn't have responded that way. But since you
Mm-hmm.
That,
did, you
that's
probably
Mm-hmm.
what's
need a
known
little
as
work on that.
pathetic listening. That's not
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah. Pathetic, not empathetic. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
when you do
That's just
pathetic listening will get you
right.
fired.
Right.
Empathetic, you might keep your job a little longer.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
so that's gonna be the next article, David. How
Yeah, yeah.
but
Oh,
pathetic,
don't
yeah,
do the pathetic.
yeah, pathetic listening. You don't want that. You don't want none of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you like your job, then don't do pathetic listening. Do empathetic
Mm-hmm.
listening. You
And
know.
I think one of the good things that for this um, specific show and this specific topic is because even in families or your neighborhood where you grew up and you knew
Mm-hmm.
everybody on the block and they knew
Mm-hmm.
you, whatever, and everything, no two people are alike. They
Right.
just aren't. Even if they say identical twins, they look alike, but
Mm-hmm.
you just have interactions with them. What they thought about this and what they thought about that would be two different conversations a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And so oftentimes we want to think that the way I think is the way to think.
Yeah.
And that's because maybe in, your household, that was the rule or whatever. So everybody can think the same way, but everybody can be related and living in the same household and being taught and everything, the same things or being exposed to the same things, but not receive them all the same exact way
Yeah.
because everybody is an individual first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't care who, we got the same mom and daddy, got the same grandmama, same granddaddy, and go all the way down the family line. But you're still not to be a carbon copy of that
Mm-hmm.
person.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to listen though, anyway is, very helpful to people because it's very difficult to be you and think that everybody gonna think like you.
Right.
So you need to know everybody don't think like you, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. But it's okay.
Yeah.
But now under certain circumstances, like with the fire service and jobs like that, that's even more important though to get to know people
Mm-hmm.
because of the way you are. Everybody else goes work 9 to 5 and go home. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all stay there 24 hours. So one of the things that's even more important, it's even more important for the 9 to 5 person too, job. But y'all's job is, like you living part time with somebody
Mm-hmm.
because you don't come home from the fire. I mean, go home from the fire. You come back to the firehouse,
Mm-hmm.
where you all work from, and everybody is not going to be responding the same way. So I think things like this show and what you all are talking about is essential for
Mm-hmm.
knowing when you get back and it's time to chill out a little bit. But if you want to have a conversation, everybody's not going to be receiving the things the same way. Even when y'all was at the same fire, dealing with the same tragic thing or whatever you were dealing with, it's not going to affect you exactly like it affected the next person.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be really aware of that and not have that expectation because you will, because it won't be fair. It won't be logical and
Right.
be able to listen and then listen to her and
Right.
listen empathetically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because
Right.
listening empathetically means I'm at least trying to hear what you're saying and that you have some credence for saying it. And so, I raised a firefighter and sometimes he's still talking about stuff that, I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Just being funny, but it's kind of true. But to say that even under those conditions, especially at the firehouse,
Mm-hmm.
it's really necessary for you to listen and then be able to relate. But not expecting the empathetic part always resonates with me because you're not expecting the person to feel like you, take it like you did, not feel like you. You know what I'm saying? Those kinds of things, but just being willing though to hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. That's true. If you start trying to wrap it up,
Mm-hmm.
um, got any final thoughts on that, David, to sum it up, or you think I
Yeah,
pretty
I
much,
think
if you were listening to me, I said it all.
right. No, I mean, I think we covered the article, but
If you had been empathetically listening to him, no, that's true.
I think we covered the article. But I just want to encourage, and I can't say enough. Uh, you got to do it every day, and you got to do it at all times every day, and that's tough. But it gets easier. It's tough at first because it's what you're not used to doing, and so it's
Right.
going to get incrementally better. Those muscles will get incrementally stronger. So I would just encourage you to practice it every day and be intentional about establishing that culture in your
Mm-hmm.
life. Let
Mm-hmm.
alone don't just limit it to trying to do it at your engine house or with your fire team because you will then ultimately treat it like you're putting on a coat. So make it your default for your life. And if everybody does that, then it just becomes the culture. So,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
No, good
mhm.
stuff. Um, Before we wrap up and go, I wanted to mention, like I said, the letters are out, and there are some that's going to be with the thumbs up. Some will probably be a thumbs down. But either way, it's a great experience because there are thumbs down this year. There probably will be next year, and so there's a lot of dynamics. I'm gonna tell you, being on the FDIC Educational Advisory Board, that's an honor to be on the board. The whole experience is a whole honor for me, coming from a person who used to get the magazine before digital came out. Kids actually read the
Magazine.
magazine, read the articles that come. And it used to be cool because even to this day, I like stuff to come to the house with my name on it, not bills, but magazines and
Yeah.
Amazon gifts and stuff like that. But it was always cool to have your name and you reading these articles and all that. And you're thinking, could one day be part of this. And so to be part of it is pretty cool. But I'm gonna tell you, the hardest thing about it was so many great submissions this year. Just I can't speak for the other board members, but stuff that came across my desk to review and to say yay and unfortunately sometimes nay about. Even if the nays had to be, it wasn't always based on it was something bad that was submitted. It's just that maybe with better submission techniques, it'll be have a better chance of being, accepted, because we make our suggestions, but there's still some final decisions that have to be made by people to get paid more than us, so that because FDIC definitely has an algorithm tool. You got about 300 or so classes that you have to account for, but you might get 1,500 submissions. Whittling down, there has to be some that stay and some that have to go and have to deal with the algorithm of what's our ear to the grindstone telling us that the fire service needs to hear or needs to learn. And so though it's a lot of different factors that factor into class selection. And I'm learning that more just being behind the scenes. So it's a absolutely great experience, and being able to sit around the round table with all the greats at what we did in New Jersey a few months ago was just a great experience as well. So FDIC is set. The classes are set. As the days get closer, because now the countdown really starts. It counts down anyway by the time the current FDIC year is over. And even further than that, they already know where FDIC is going to be in like 2030. They already got it planned. It's already in the books. It's already going to be in Indianapolis. So it's a huge event. It's a big undertaking to put all this stuff on. So it's a lot of respect for people like Chief David Rhodes and Diane Feldman and Rothschild and Dana, and just a whole host of people who make this happen. And even the people's names you don't know that are key parts of this whole phenomenon we call FDIC. So if you didn't get your class approved, come anyway. Hang out at the family reunion, attend some classes, be part of the experience, because it's nothing else like it. Dave and I have been going for a while now, probably well over a decade, probably 12 or 13 years now, and it doesn't get old to me. It might get a little old to David, because David is, he'd rather be at the film festival with Denzel, and we understand that. If I was going to the film festival, I'd be like, this is nice, but it ain't firefighting, and the same. But nonetheless, we always have a great time and a great experience with the audience, and just the brotherhood and sisterhood and networking, and it's just a great experience. It's big. It's the biggest thing. When you walk around downtown Indianapolis, it's just 2 stories of firefighter posters, and every bar is filled with the, camaraderie and people breaking bread and drinking and doing that kind of deal. And what I'm really excited about this year is that if I do it right, kids, I'll be done with this master's degree in December. And when I'm done with that, I could be at FDIC. I could hang out a little bit. See, the last couple of years, I ain't really been able to hang out. It's like, hey, Larry, come on, I'll buy you one. Wish I could, but I got to get back to the old hotel and do some typing. Had to be dedicated. I had to say to myself, I'm going here for an hour. Then I'll be back at the hotel room typing. You got to have that discipline. So I was there. Just didn't shut it down, So This year, I probably can shut it down, because I won't have
Shut
any.
it down, shut it
Oh,
down, down.
that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna shut it down, and I better start. I better start shutting it down now because I'm not getting any younger. I'll be,
Never
so,
mind.
no, right. So you know how that goes,
You end up shutting
But
it down, can't get back
Talking
up.
about,
right. I'm
yeah,
saying
we're
falling
talking about
can't get
shut
back
it
up.
down.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So shut it, But
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
make your plans. Start making plans now, uh, um, and make sure you come join us in the biggest firefighter family reunion since family reunions were invented. We got it all. We got everything you need there. You got and one thing about the vision of David Rhodes. I listen to him talking. He's always looking for ways just to tweak it and turn it up a notch. I mean, Bobby had this era where he did things and he moved the needle and the baton was passed for him, and he ran a great race into taking things from where they were to where they are now. But the good thing about David Rose in that same spirit is taking that baton, and he's taking the baton from Robert there, and he's running his race with it. And so some of the vision and some of the ways they want to change things to make it better, to make it more appealing to all demographics, and also make sure that we are being fiscally responsible. David got his hands on the pulse with that, so it's a lot of respect and a lot of confidence in his leadership. So just want to shout out to that. And they also give away great shirts too. I'm
Oh
the FDIC shirt now as we speak.
my God.
Love
You got a whole wardrobe.
the shirt. Yeah, I do. I got a lot of shirts. I got I'm trying to get rid of clothes, but I got like a lot of stuff I can't even fit anymore because I've got smaller, But man, I'm telling you, I got if you like me, and you can inbox me and let me know if you like me. I got more fire shirts and T-shirts than I do regular clothes. It's bins full of them downstairs, so it's just crazy. So if you ain't got nothing else, you can always throw on the fire department T-shirt, short sleeves, sweatshirt, whatever, and put on some shorts or some jeans. You good to go. Good to go. It's just, that's one of the benefits of being a firefighter. You ain't got to be at these dress stores trying to find stuff to wear. Just throw a New York shirt on, a Phoenix shirt, or a St. Louis shirt, a Collinsville shirt. Just throw the shirt on, go about your business. Instant respect. Some people have had. I've seen nice ladies walking down the street with well-dressed men, nice looking guys, well dressed, and then they're walking with them, holding hands, looking like they're having a great day. I walk by my firefighter shirt. Guess what? Heads turning. Yeah. You know what he do for a living? He's a firefighter. I got the shirt on. Some of them even bold enough to even ask, "Hey, where you work?" I say, "Hey, don't get don't piss off your boyfriend here or your husband there. He's well dressed. I just got this shirt on. Yeah, but he's not a firefighter, so it adds the benefits. And I even spend the kind of money he spent on the Gucci stuff. I just got the sweatshirt on." Swag. Swag, yeah. Brown swagger and swag. I got it. Just with a simple shirt. It's amazing.
I did the best I could. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, you pull up to somebody who's next to, they got a nice car. They got a nice car sitting there. You pull up in your plain car, but you got the fire department sticker in there or the fire department place. Guess what? Once again, hey, while we're here at the light, where do you work? Hey, don't get hurt, sweetheart, because I'm a firefighter, yeah, but it can't be the car, it must be the sticker, because y'all in a nice car here, but he's not a firefighter, so that's the benefits of being a firefighter, so. But
and I thought it was the health plan.
Right. And the dental plan, But seriously, I'm laughing, but very serious in the sense, yeah, it has, and some of that has really led to things like unfortunate things. But you got to take the good with the bad in this. I've had some success, but I've had some child support too. So Be, be careful. Be careful being that cool.
Can't wear all the shirts.
No, you can't.
Ooh, I
Yeah,
did the best I could.
wear the pants or
Right.
not do that.
Look at the time.
Right. So it's time to go already. But hey, come out to FDIC. It's going to be in April. You know where it's going to be, in the middle of America, Indianapolis, beautiful downtown Indianapolis, Indiana, and it's going to be a great show. It's going to be some as the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot of great changes, and I'm sure as David Rhodes is ready to release those things, you will hear about them. You're not going to hear it from me because I'm a honest board member. I'm a mom's the word, but I can guarantee you, you're going to be happy that you came to FDIC in the next couple of years. So keep coming, keep hanging out with us, and check everything out. Anyway, like we said, the next couple of months, we're going to have some great guests. Looking forward to David Griffin once the swelling goes down. We're going to be talking, and I told you before, periodically throughout these broadcasts, we're going to be having guests on to really continue this conversation about mental health, mental fitness, and behavior health, and things of that sort. We've made a lot of progress, and I'm proud of that. We still got some ways to go. So more people keep talking about it, and we keep normalizing it, we're probably literally going to save some more lives. And that's what I want to do. I want to do my part to continue to save lives, because I empathetically listen to the industry, and we need this type of stuff to be just as profound, just as in your face as, teaching somebody how the new technique of using a halogen, or how to get through a difficult lock at a commercial building, or the ways that we know that fires are a little different now than they used to be based on the content. We double down on these things, and we should. But up there with that, we need to give this mental health thing at the same status and the same doubling down, and make that just as normal as everything else. And when we do that, we're definitely going to save more lives. So I'm looking forward to being part of that team, lockstep with other people who are doing the same thing. We don't have all the answers, and we're probably scratching the surface on what we do know about it. But I'm going to tell you this, lockstep with other people who feel the same way and on the mission, but doing the same kind of work. That team is going to help our overall team. And so I'm just glad to be a part of that the solutions, part of the solutions. So we're going to see you in another 7 weeks or so, and when this next time we air. So check us out. Check us out on www.gluenationldc.com. See where in the world Larry and David are in the world. Check us up on social media. We got like Instagram, so your Facebooks, all that kind of stuff. We always are having fun there, and just to make sure that we stand. I always laugh at social media. You think it's not that effective, but we'll go places and we'll say, "I'm Larry Conley. We know who you are. We saw you on the social media thing." So it's kind of cool to be able to meet people that you've only known online, and just to meet in person is always a great experience. So anyway, just wanted to thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by, and check out David's article. That article came out actually in November last year, the 21st, 2023. So anyway, go back in the archives, kids, and look up Stronger Fire Teams Through Empathetic Listening by David Conley, and kind of, we just kind of, for respective time, we just kind of, went over some key points tonight, but delve into it, share it with your crew, share it with your department. And if you want David and I to come down and share with you with us, and we'll be happy to do that for you too, among the other things that we teach. We teach officer development and team building. We got a lot of things in the repertoire. So reach out to us and check us out, and we'll be happy to help you and your team be the best you can be. So with that being said, we're signing off. Be safe, stay cool in the heat, and then stay hot when
in the cold.
When the winter time gets here, you know. And I'm about to go have some Vienna sausage and some potted meat, and I'm only gonna eat half a sausage.
I
I'm
did
trying
the
to
best I could.
control the sodium there, you know. So
My goodness. Silly.
Put
it's
the
all about
hazmat
health.
team on standby.
Right. The toilet's about to go. Anyway,
Shalom.
so we will talk to you later. Thank you.
Great show.
And,
Great show. Great job.
right. Thank you
Thank
for
you. Good. Great
tuning
job.
in. And thank you, David, for our special guest. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anytime. All
One of the
right.
best.
Good night.
All right.
Thank
Good night.
For all your medication and narcotic tracking needs, check out the LogRX app, created by career fire and EMS professionals. That's LogRX.com.
This podcast is brought to you by Flex 7 from TenCate Protective Fabrics. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of enforced technology. Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tencatefabrics.com/Flex 7.